On today's show, we're going to talk about marijuana and a few other topics with Bill Mullen, Director of Risk Management for the Greater Boston Association of Realtors. My name is Michael Spur, and this is the Real Estate Forum. Hi, this is the Real Estate Forum, and my name is Michael Spur. Tonight, my guest is Bill Mullen III, and he's going to go over what he does for the Greater Boston Real Estate Board. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, your experience. I know not only do you have the law degree, but you're also street smart as well. You acted as a broker.
I actually came into real estate in the late 1990s and ended up managing a real estate office and then going up to a company called Carlson Better Homes and Gardens. I ran their license school, did all the part of their education, not all of it, and also then did risk management with them. And then
So you were doing risk management even
yes.
before you went to G-Bar?
I was helping out in the risk management area as well for the company, correct.
Okay. And so how did you end up at the Greater Boston Real Estate Board?
I'm actually
I'm sorry.
Greater
G-Bar.
Boston Real Estate Board, correct.
Okay.
Let me explain what that means.
Okay.
We're a board made up of 5 different divisions, and each one of our divisions touch on real estate. So there's the Rental Housing Association, the
I
real
use many of
estate-
their forms.
Yep, and you may be familiar, the
Yes.
audience may be familiar with their forms.
Sure.
Our rental, which we refer to as RHA, Rental Housing Association.
Right.
We also have the Real Estate Finance Association, the Commercial Brokers Association, and the one that I particularly work for is the Greater Boston Association of Realtors.
Okay. And your counsel and risk management for them.
I am their in-house attorney, and I cover risk management not only for the firm, the company itself, but for local brokers.
But you're not doing like real estate closings.
I no longer practice law.
Okay.
I shouldn't say that. I do a little bit of law, family and friends.
Sure.
But I no longer practice on an ongoing basis in the way people traditionally think as an attorney.
I see.
If you look at what I do for the board, several of my responsibilities, I oversee what we call arbitrations and ethics complaints, so that if a member of the public had an issue with one of our realtors, they could file an ethics complaint.
Okay, so this isn't just for B2B or business. 2 agents have a dispute over a closing or a listing. It's more the general public can call you with a complaint as well.
The general public, absolutely. The general public, anyone can file an ethics complaint.
Okay.
My
And
job
this is-
oversees that ethics process.
But this is different from the Massachusetts Licensing Board.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Actually, we get confused quite a bit because it's
And that's why I
called
wanted to point that out.
the Greater Boston Real Estate Board. So we a lot of times get phone calls about complaints going after a licensee. There's a difference between a real estate licensee in the Commonwealth and someone who has joined the Realtor organization.
Correct. I myself am a realtor.
Correct.
And there's a difference.
Absolutely. We hold ourselves to a code of conduct, which we call the Code of Ethics.
Yes.
And we hold ourselves to a higher level.
Correct. What are the common things that you see today in and around the risks that you deal with on a day-to-day basis?
So one of the other aspects of my job, aside from arbitrations, which, by the way, is a dispute over a commission between 2 brokers.
Correct.
So I oversee the arbitration process, I oversee an ethics complaint process, and one of my other positions is I cover what we call the brokerage counseling hotline.
Okay.
So a broker in the Commonwealth, again, who's a realtor,
Right.
has
And you have to be a
access-
realtor.
Absolutely,
Yep.
in order to chat with me.
Yep.
Can call in and ask questions. And so I kind of gauge what's going on in the industry in terms of risk management based on the types of telephone calls I get. So, example,
Great.
today I had a call about lead paint. A child's going to be visiting the home in the rental unit. The landlord is looking to understand, or the realtor,
Yes.
to advise the landlord on, does it have to be lead safe or not. If the child's not going to be living in the unit and they're under 6 years old, it doesn't need to be lead safe. If the child is going to be living in the unit, then they need to make the
So what
unit lead
defines
safe.
living? How
And that's
long is the
question.
stay?
And that's the question. Even my understanding, even in the Commonwealth, that if you're divorced in a divorce scenario and you don't have full custody of the child, but the child's just going to be visiting, say I'm the dad, and he's going to be visiting on weekends,
Correct.
doesn't give rise to a problem.
Okay.
Does not need to be
That's good to know.
made lead safe. However, if the child's living there on a full-time
it's
basis,
Full custody. Yeah.
they need to they need to
Okay.
make it lead safe for them.
Correct.
And I want to just jump on one little term you just used there. You said full custody. There still could be joint custody. I don't want to get into family law per se.
Right, I understand.
However, it's where the child's going to be living.
Mm-hmm.
Another example, if grandma and grandpa are going to be taking care of the child every day while
And we
mom
see
works,
that today.
then
Sometimes,
that
yes.
unit has to be lead safe for a child under the age of 6.
Gotcha. There were some recent modifications to lead paint regulation and pediatrics with the lead levels, weren't there?
Actually, yes. Starting in 2016, they've decreased the amount of lead a child can have in their system before they look at it as an issue. So in other
I see.
words, when children go to school, when they go to their pediatricians, for checkups, they do lead tests. And
And
interestingly,
these are all mandatory, aren't they? I
and they are mandatory
yes.
at certain ages. However, it's become a little bit of a custom for doctors to be doing it at a younger age than is
Okay.
required. But interestingly, if a child tests to a certain level, and again, they're going to be lowering that standard, what
Okay.
the level is,
Right.
so that it'd be less lead in a child's system.
Correct.
You, by law, the doctor is required to inform the state.
Ah,
They will inform the state before they inform the parents. They're required to
they
inform
inform
them
parents. but not-
simultaneously.
Ah,
Right.
that's interesting.
So that the state can come in and say, okay, where is this child getting the lead from?
I see. Do you have any influence in this legislation? Or
Well, the board itself, we have full-time lobbyists as
Yep.
well as outside lobbyists who work on all kinds of real estate, property protection rights and so forth, as well as another thing the Greater Boston Real Estate Board does, we protect people's property rights.
Exactly. And a lot of that falls under or property rights not only of home ownership but landlords.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Everybody knows about the new laws and how they changed in and around marijuana use.
Lots and lots of calls.
Really?
Lots
Okay.
of discussion from brokers. As you know, it went into effect in December, and one of the problems is that the legislature really hasn't defined enough of the rules and regulations that we're going to follow. So some of them are still a little bit loose, and I know we'll see, which I think is part of the reason why they postponed the
Right.
sales and so forth of it for 6
Right, the
months.
retail.
The retail
Part
side.
of it, yes.
In order to get their hands around some regulations
Yeah.
on sales and so forth.
So
Well,
if I understand correctly, mom and dad, landlord, and all of us, even the corporations, are going to have to wait until it hits the courts and there's an outcome.
Well, let me
the
give you
books,
some parameters.
Okay.
On if I'm a landlord or you're a landlord and how you
Yep.
should handle that. The law states, and there's a few ambiguities, so I'm going to go
Right.
through a couple steps.
Okay.
The law states that someone over the age of 21
Yep.
can grow marijuana plants in their home for their personal use, not
Right.
for sale, but for their personal use.
Sure.
They allow up to 6 plants in a household, and those.
Now, is that 6 plants per person? Or, I mean,
my-
if you have 4 roommates,
My understanding is, no, it wouldn't be unlimited. It wouldn't be what's 4 times 6, 24. It wouldn't allow 24 plants in a home.
that's a garden.
Correct.
Okay.
That's a great way to put it.
Right.
That's a garden. So
Okay.
you can't add another room on or change
Right.
a room over
Okay.
for growing purposes.
Right.
Or at least let me put it this way. If you're changing a room over for growing purposes, you're doing more than personal use.
Personal use.
right?
That's a lot of personal
Yeah, it'd
use.
be a lot of personal
Okay.
use, right.
All right.
So let's look at it from 2 different ways.
Yep.
From a landlord rental aspect and from a sales aspect. We'll
Okay.
start with the landlord side.
Okay.
Can a landlord refuse to allow someone to grow plants in the home? Can a landlord refuse to allow someone to smoke marijuana in the home? Which is actually two different questions.
Okay.
So let me go to the first smoking part first.
Sure.
Part of RHA, or Rental Housing Association.
At this time,
Yep.
owners can prohibit cigarette smoking or any tobacco use.
Absolutely. And so I was going to say the Rental Housing Association, we have leases,
Yes.
fixed leases and self-extending leases
Sure.
that we sell also to the public. One of the addendums we have is the non-smoking addendum.
That must be new.
So that it's been around for a few years, but
Okay.
relatively newer.
Okay.
It was created within, I want to say, the last 3 to 4 years, I think.
Okay.
Memory serves, yes.
Yep.
Relatively new. And in that particular addendum, a landlord can say that you can't smoke. Smokers are not members of a protected class. So
Correct.
you don't have a right to smoke in
Right.
your unit per se.
There was a question about that some time ago. In and around, is it an addiction where the tenant, again, doesn't have control over it, they're not responsible?
Well, if it gives rise to the level of a handicap,
Right, that's
Then-
where it was.
then they would come under handicap status.
Mm-hmm.
However, smoking cigarettes is not considered a
Okay.
handicap under.
But wasn't there a time when it was going back and forth about
There was
that?
a question about whether or
Yes.
not how it would be interpreted.
Okay.
However, it is
The
now
law came down and said,
and said if you're a landlord, you can decide not
Mm-hmm.
to rent to someone who smokes cigarettes.
period. Yep.
Period. You
Yep.
have that right to do that because smokers are not members of a protected class.
Okay.
Okay.
And hence, they are not handicapped.
Correct.
It is not a handicap. Okay.
Correct.
Or any
Correct.
type of
It's not
disability.
defined exactly as
as a disability.
Correct.
Okay.
So we have an addendum, as I mentioned, that you can attach to your lease,
Mm-hmm.
which defines that you can't smoke in the unit.
Mm-hmm.
This past week, we changed that addendum to include marijuana smoking as well.
Okay.
So
It's great to see that these are being updated.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. Updated with the times. as
That's
it were.
right.
So, as a landlord, I can decide whether or not I want to allow you to smoke cigarettes in the unit,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
or not, or marijuana in the unit, or
Or
not.
pipe tobacco or anything else.
Pipe tobacco,
Cigars.
cigars,
Right.
anything along
Yeah.
those lines. For two reasons, basically. One, the smoke deteriorates the unit, and two, others tend to be allergic,
Right.
and smoke can seep through, and it does.
Right.
Walls and vent systems and under the door and so
Correct.
forth, and it causes problems with other tenants.
Correct. Yep.
So you can make that decision. Now let's take step two.
Okay.
Can I decide, though, that I'm not going to allow you to grow?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if a landlord wants to decide that, they can do that as well. And
Okay.
determine that I don't want someone growing them in my unit, growing in my unit. And that,
Okay.
under the new statute, is also allowed
Okay.
for a tenant to put that type of restriction on.
For a landlord to put that.
Correct, I'm
Yeah,
sorry, for a
yeah.
landlord to put that type of restriction on.
How is that different from growing tomatoes? I mean, if you've got a 6-unit building and one of your tenant has a green thumb, no pun intended, and wants to grow tomatoes, and someone else says, "Well, gee, I want to do this," and I believe there is a provision about not being visible by the public. Isn't there some provision in there? If you're growing, it can't be seen by the public or something like this?
I didn't read that in the statute.
Okay.
The statute that came out. The legislature decided that a landlord is not required to have to allow someone to
I see.
grow in their unit. So they can prohibit growth as well.
My guess, or not guess, for instance, I have clients that won't rent to law students because they end up practicing law on them.
So the question is
But
a
if,
student a member of a protected class?
no, and I understand this correctly, clearly, but if, for instance, the owner has a 10-unit building and already has a law student in there, and someone says, "Wait a minute, you already have a law student rented to," then there would be, potential discrimination. If somebody's growing tomatoes,
Okay.
same situation, different plan.
Okay, I'm going to address the first one
Okay.
first. I have a case right on point for you.
Okay. Great.
About 15, 20 years ago, buyers purchased a real estate in a gated community in California.
Okay.
Fenced-in type of community. When the developer found out they were attorneys, he canceled the contract.
Ah, okay.
And the attorney sued. And it went all the way up to the Supreme Court of California.
Okay.
And basically the outcome was professions are not a protected class. So if it's not a protected class, therefore they can decide not to rent to them. Now, in your analogy, you've said there's one already in there.
Correct.
And now one not being allowed. But maybe the one in there is the reason for the landlord now changing his mind on why he doesn't want to rent to law school students. Because I'm not sure if you know this, but law students know everything there is to know about the law. So.
Oh, absolutely.
They know everything. So, having said that.
Especially after their first year.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, from that point of view, I don't believe that if the landlord has now decided not to rent, again, based on being a law student,
Yes.
it would be discriminatory to say, no, I'm not going to allow that particular person in.
I see. So, hence, it would be the same as saying, okay, I'm letting one tenant garden, and the other one I'm saying no to.
And because the way the statute was written, it specifically stated
Okay.
that a landlord does not have to allow growing in the unit.
Okay.
Okay? Now,
Period.
well, let's take a different shift now.
Okay.
Because attorneys, if you ask two attorneys the same question, you're getting 4 answers.
That's
so, in terms of medical marijuana,
Right.
it may be a different scenario.
That's true.
Because now that may come under handicapped and protected class. So a landlord may say, I don't want to allow
This
you
is
to grow
really
in the
going to be
unit.
complex.
But absolutely, and that's why the legislature is still going to speak on this with more regulations.
Yep.
So a landlord may say, yes, you can get brownies or gummy bears or something
Exactly.
that's not smoking,
They have gummy bears?
but they have gummy bears. Oh yeah, they have everything. Los Angeles has ice cream and soda. It's just amazing.
California.
It's a totally West
It's
Coast.
the left coast.
Yep, left coast.
Yep.
But that aside, and believe me, we'll see it coming.
Oh, yeah.
Look at here. I mean, dispensaries are already being planned in this area.
Big time, and I'm sure any consumer market like that.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So from that point of view, I don't believe a landlord would be able to say, no, you can't have brownies or
gummy
some
bears.
other type of thing
Right.
that's not smoking.
Right.
So it really focused on the aspect of you don't have to allow them to grow, and you could still restrict smoking,
Right.
but not necessarily use. Correct.
Let me ask you this. Say I have a tenant, and they've been great for the 3 years. Law changes. We go into next year, and they're growing or smoking. How might I address that?
Well, you'd have to wait for the lease term to be up.
So you do have to wait. It's not
Once
because
you-
the law changes. It doesn't give you the opportunity with an existing lease.
Well, it would be difficult to go in and try to change the terms of the lease, any
Okay.
term of a lease.
Okay.
Because we've made an agreement for 1 year,
Right.
you've allowed this or not allowed this. Let me do a little bit of a different analogy, though.
Okay.
If it had a non-smoking addendum attached to the lease where they wouldn't allow them to smoke, I think they could still enforce them not being allowed
Okay.
to smoke marijuana in the unit.
It's good to know.
While we've added it into the lease to be specific, I think the an addendum of that nature would cover not allowing them to smoke.
I see. Great. Okay. How do you see the market going forward in Massachusetts?
In terms of marijuana or the overview?
No.
Well, before we leave the subject, let me give
Yes.
a little bit more advice.
Okay.
Because I wanted to cover two aspects of the marijuana. I
Yes.
wanted to mention the rental side,
Yes.
which we have, but I also want to mention the sales side.
Yes.
If you're a buyer or seller, or if you're a realtor working with a seller.
marijuana?
Realtor,
Sorry, I had to do that.
you had to go there. I set it up for you.
That's true. Okay.
So if you want to purchase a home, or
Yes.
you want to sell your home,
Yes.
and you're working with a realtor on
Yep.
either side or on both sides, questions come down. Do I have to disclose if I'm a seller and I grow in my house?
Right.
If I have my prerequisite 6 plants,
Yep.
and do I have to disclose that to you coming up? And that answer, I believe, would be no. I don't think you'd necessarily have to disclose that. However, if you're the seller or the realtor, you should have a conversation about that prior to putting it on the market. Make a decision on, do I want to have 6 plants in the room where buyers come in and look? Some buyers may think nothing of it, may be attracted to it.
Maybe
Some buyers might take a leaf or two, you never know.
Right.
And some buyers may say, I don't want this house
isn't right.
because these sellers grow in their
Right.
property and I'm not comfortable with that.
Right.
And the seller can decide that and
Sure.
needs to decide that in advance.
It would make sense, just from a brokerage point and listing a property for sale, to remove the plants.
Well,
I mean,
as in
why
all
take the
things,
chance?
we tell sellers, we move jewelry, we move
Right.
cell phones, we move
Personal photos.
personal photos, keys to the
Right.
house, remote controls. People always forget that the
Yep.
remote to open and shut the garage.
That's right.
If they
Yep.
have a car in the garage, it should be locked. Because those who think in that way,
Right. I'm looking for
steal the
those.
remote,
Yep.
wait for you to leave after an open house, click it, and come walking in.
Right.
Because most people don't lock the door between their garage and their home.
That's true.
So from that perspective, I think it would be one more thing. I think, and as we mentioned earlier, I didn't go into it, but I also listed and sold. I went out on my own in the early 2000s.
Yep.
Then I went to the Greater Boston Real Estate Board in 2008. So
Okay.
it was a period of 7 or 8 years, which I listed and sold, primarily how I made my income.
Yep.
So I think from that point of view, I might also say to my sellers, listen, I don't think
Right.
there will be that many buyers who are going to come through who are going to be looking for good growing conditions in this house.
Right.
And therefore,
Right.
you may want to remove the plants
Right.
during showings and things of
Yes.
that nature.
Yep. What would you say to potential buyers? Would you have a conversation with them and saying, look, if we run into something that, is there anything that I should be aware of that might offend you?
And I think I would approach that with the buyers in 2 ways also.
Yep.
One way, would this be an issue for you, or
Right.
are you looking for a
Right.
home that has good direct sunlight or
Right.
whatever types of things you might need because you grow 6 plants also.
Right.
And so I would want to be tuned in with my buyers
Right.
in terms of what they were looking for. Would they be offended? Would it become an issue or not?
I see. Okay. What else have we seen in as far as changes with the internet and different issues there?
Well, the industry is run by the internet now, as
it is.
most businesses
Are.
are. Absolutely.
Well, I've been in the business long enough where I used to get the MLS books every 2 weeks. The listings information was updated every 2 weeks.
Well, I don't want to
So,
provide my age, as it were,
Okay.
but I also started in the industry when we got a weekly book and a monthly book, and
Yes.
we looked through listings through an actual book.
Right.
Interestingly, back in the late 1990s, I made an offhand comment to the president of the North Shore Association at that time and said, pretty soon we're all going to have Dick Tracy watches, and we're
Yep.
going to do our deals right through our watches, and we're there.
except
And
it's a phone, not a watch.
it's a phone, not a watch, but they
Right.
also have watches.
That's true.
They have
That-
watches too. I don't
Yep.
know how you can read it. I can't see that's
neither.
wrong. But that aside,
Right.
For
the younger agents.
the industry itself is driven also by the internet, which I think there are some good points, and I think there are some
Right.
issues that it certainly causes.
You spoke at one of the recent owner-broker meetings, I think, about cybersecurity, and there were issues in and around emails and wired funds. Talk a little bit about that.
All right, so let's talk about cybercrime. In the last 5 years, it has increased, almost 200-fold.
Okay.
Because people are becoming very sophisticated. And when I say people, I mean thieves.
Criminals,
Are becoming
yes.
criminals who are becoming very sophisticated on how to get into this transaction
Right.
And effectively steal money
Okay.
through internet processes. So one way to do it is for, and let me put your audience on a different slant here.
Okay.
Do you really look at people's email addresses? Do you
Not
ever
that
really look
closely.
at it with a fun?
And again, that's why I might inadvertently email Brian my friend
Sure.
from Brian, my client.
Absolutely. I was actually focusing more, but it's a great point because I've done that a few times too. You make those mistakes a couple times and then that stops.
Yes.
But that aside, incoming email addresses. You see the name, you look at the subject line, and then you go right to reading it and see what the context is.
Sure.
One of the tricks that thieves, criminals use is to change the email address, but so slightly that you might not even notice it. My last name is Mullen, M-U-L-L-I-E-N. They might change it to M-U-L-I-N.
Right.
Something that you wouldn't necessarily pick up. I might pick up on it, but you wouldn't necessarily pick up on something like that. Or they might just add a 1 at the end of my email address itself.
Sure.
Now suddenly that criminal is communicating with you and you think it's me.
Right.
And that's where the problem starts.
It's interesting. And if I remember correctly, you gave an example of a transaction where the thief emailed somebody, they were monitoring the communication, emailed at the right time before the closing.
Right. That's exactly what they do. So they're monitoring the communications between you and I.
Right.
Not only are they monitoring it, but you're the seller and I'm representing you. Not only are they monitoring it, they've captured all of my information.
Yep.
And so when they send you that email from them, my phone number, my cell number, my picture, my company
everything's
name,
on there.
Everything's on there. So that you're not looking close enough at that address to make a differential between those two things. Therefore, the day of the closing, we close at 10 o'clock. We're on a record at noontime. We're waiting for the closing attorney to distribute the funds at 2 o'clock. Suddenly, the closing attorney gets an email at 12 saying, please wire these funds to, and they give the wiring instructions, the number to count, and so forth. 5 o'clock in the afternoon, my client's saying, where's my money? The attorney hasn't wired it to me yet, but in fact, the monies had been wired and they've been wired to somebody else. Because the closing attorney got an instruction from the real estate agent or so-called real estate agent acting under my name and address and everything, even though it was a different email address, giving them different instructions.
Right. No, it's very interesting. I've never asked a client to wire money or anything, and obviously don't. So if anybody's out there, never wire money. Always, if somebody's telling you to wire money, pick up the phone and give them a call, confirm what's going on.
Absolutely. Since this has become a much greater issue, the FBI actually put out a series of instructions for people. And one of the easiest ones that you just mentioned, call up and talk to me personally. Find out whether or not I sent those wire instructions. I've got a couple great examples for you when we have time for those.
All right. I want to thank my guest, Bill Mullen, for enlightening us on marijuana, lead paint, amongst other things. So this has been the Real Estate Forum. My name is Michael Spur. Thanks for joining us. And we're out, I hope.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. The whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Next.